Welcome back, fellow duelists. I'm the LT. I'm here to present to you my deck build for Mathmech. I can't even remember the last time I lost with this deck. That's how effective it's been. And I know a lot of people kind of saw the deck as it came out with Mystic Fighters here recently and thought that it was a cheese OTK deck and have mostly been ignoring it. But the deck has so much more potential than that. Has so much more combat potential. I've won several games without using Final Sigma at all. So I'd like to jump right into that and try to explain that for you guys, and hopefully you can understand some of how the deck should be played. So first off, we have two Nibiru. Nibiru is great for the combo stopping, but I actually like him because when you tribute him out, you actually leave him in attack position on your opponent's turn 1. And when it's your turn, you can use a subtraction to dip him below that 3000 and dip him down to 2000, and now you have a perfect 8000 OTK through your Final Sigma combo. So he's great for that as well. And I run him at 2, of course, because Brick City. So I have 4 cards in this deck that I consider to be 1-card starters. A 1-card starter being defined as a card that can create more cards and go into a partial combo by itself. It's kind of like Salamangreats. If they have a bad hand, they can still do the Bailings combo, things like that. So Clock Wyvern, when he's normal or special summoned, you can halve his attack and get a free token. This is great because it gets you into your basic combo by himself. Paired with Balancer Lord, it's even better because you can summon the Balancer Lord, summon the Clock Wyvern, and only use the Balancer Lord and the Clock Wyvern token for the full combo. And then you can leave the Clock Wyvern on the field for Ixie's material going into Alimbertion to get you a super factorial search, which is where he's best utilized. Balancer Lords, 3 of them, absolutely standard, that will never change. You need the double summon when you can get it. You also definitely want to use that special summon. And there's a small way we can abuse that. If we don't have the Cyanide Minings, and we don't have the Balancer Lords, we can abuse the special summon ability of Balancer Lord through Gold Sarcophagus, which we'll get into in a second. Mathmech Division, you'll notice a lot of people like to run this card at 2. I do not. I run it at 1. And the reason why that is targeting protection is a thing in this game. So it's great to halve your opponent's attack points because you're maybe trying to push the game. A lot of the time you can accomplish this through your Mathmech subtraction. And really that's why I only run them at 1, is because almost all the time I'm doing this through Mathmech subtraction if I'm pushing for the OTK. Or I can simply search for the equip spell down here, which we'll get to in a second, and utilize it that way, and basically pull him from the deck at will. I almost never, 90% of the time, I'm not using him for his tribute effect. I'm using Nobler for the tribute effect because Nobler tributes a Cyberse monster. And so he's really not that helpful in the sense of tributing out monsters. You don't want to sacrifice your extra monster zone position either, just to try to get something cooler off. I prefer to play and bait out the hand traps. That's why he's at 1. Our second 1-card starter is Cyberse Gadget. So, Cyberse Gadget, he does have a great effect where he's normal summoned, he can pull level 2 or lower. I almost never use that effect. I only run 1 monster in my deck that can be pulled via Cyberse Gadget, and that's Dotscaper. If I do, it's great, it combos off really well. But his second effect is when he's sent to the graveyard, simply summon another token, and that's why he's another 1-card starter, because he can do the same combo as Clock Wyvern can. 3 free special summon tuner, he's pretty self-explanatory. Pitch him with Twin Twister, it costs you basically nothing. 3 Mathmech Nobler. This is really the core of the deck's ability to OTK, at least, which you really don't want this card getting impermanence or otherwise Astro stopped, so you need to try to bait out the hand traps with your Cyberse Wicked combo, even if you're going turn 2. I know it sounds strange to some of you. You can just summon Balancer Lord, summon Mathmech Nobler, tribute Balancer Lord, go into multiplication, and then synchro summon 12 for your Sigma, and you think there's game. But that doesn't really take into account what the opponent is doing. What is our opponent doing? They're going to try to stop that, right? So you actually want to bait out your opponent by going into the full Cyberse Wicked combo, and then eventually leading into the Nobler, where you tribute the Wicked and then go into the OTK is the best way to get around your opponent's hand traps. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to play your OTK going turn 2. Subtraction of 3, pretty self-explanatory. Free summon, dip your opponent's monster's attack below the safety line. Addition, I only run this card at 2. The reason for that is he is good situationally for pumping up Sigma to 7k attack. That almost never happens, but it does happen. He's good for very, very niche situations, like once I got Tiamat locked by Mech Knights, so I can't use my extra monster zone, which is how this deck functions. And I used Addition on Balance the Lord to pump him up to 2700, and rolled right over that Tiamat, and then I went into all my plays in main phase 2. So he's actually crucial in some niche scenarios, but in general he bricked a lot when I was running him at 3, so I am running him at 2. I mostly just use him as a free special summon. Multiplication, I tried to run this at 1. You really cannot. Sometimes you draw it and that's the card you need to use, with your Balance Lord just to do the 2-card combo. So you don't want to play that game where you think you're only going to need to run 1. Even without the pot of desires that a lot of builds seem to be running, which I thoroughly disagree with, you can find situations where you still need the 2. So I keep him at 2, and he does have some fun wins where you normal summon him with the extra monster zone you've already got out, and you just ram him into the opponent's monster, and then use his effect when he gets to the grave to pump your extra monster zone monster back up to double attack, which is pretty fun. Our third one-card starter is Firewall Guardian. This card is great for 3 reasons. 1, he brings himself back when he uses a link material, so you can do the whole basic combo by himself. And 2, he's an Xyz material, so if you have the Balancer Lord just like Clock Wyvern, you bring him back, you just keep him on the field though, and then later you stack him so he won't get banished when he leaves the field into Alimbertion and get your super factorial search. But the third reason is a reason that people don't pay attention to because a lot of players don't read cards, which is that if there's 2 link monsters doing battle, you can make the opponent's link monster 0. It almost never happens, but when it does, it's hilarious. Like one time I was in a bad position, I'd brick pretty hard prior to making this build, and but I was running this card, and my opponent used Borrel Sword, and he went to attack into my Cyber's Wicked, and I negated the attack with Firewall Guardian in the grave, and made that Borrel Sword's attack 0, at which point my opponent rage quit. So it's pretty fun to use in those scenarios as well. And my favorite and 4th one-card starter is Dartscaper. This card is amazing because you can pitch him with Silent Mining, and boom, he comes back with his Graveyard to special summon effect. Or you can pitch him with Twisters to try to bait out opponent's back row, and boom, he'll come back. I like that ability, and it's just free special summons. Also, if I've already have the Balancer's Lord in hand, but I also have a Gold Sarcophagus, back when I was running an earlier build, I was like, well, now Gold Sarcophagus is a bit of a dead card, right? Because you're going to already full combo off with Balancer Lord, this banish special summon effect. But now if you have that, you can just go even further, and Golden Sarcophagus the Dartscaper, he'll immediately special summon himself out, and then later you can bring him back, maybe with the Cyber's Gadget, and still get his effects. So he's just really great utility for the deck. You'll notice I only run one Mathmech equation, the Monster Reborn of the deck. This card has always bricked for me when I've run it at more than 1. That's the simple reason why I only run it at 1. And really, I'll almost never use this card, unless I'm going turn 3. So I've done my turn 1 plays, my opponent's done some countering, and now I want to do my second Alimbertion search for the formula to try to combo out something very specific, is usually how it'll work. And it's great in the hand turn 1 if you're having a soft brick. It can be helpful. Like there've been games where I've only drawn, one Sigma or one Nabla, and I've managed to combo out using this in hand to bring it back. It's very helpful that way. So I keep him at 1. Silent Mining's 3, very standard. Gold Sarcophagus, Balancer Lord, and Dartscaper Abuse is strictly what this card does and nothing else. Foolish Burial. once again, Balancer Lord and Dotscaper. So you might think, why would you foolish barrel the Balancer Lord if you need the double summon? You don't always. Let's say you have a 1-card starter, like Clock Wyvern. Now you've used your normal summon, and now you can't normal summon the Nabla when you add it to hand via Cyber's Wicked. So you've used the normal summon, you've gone into Cyber's Wicked, and you also have a Link Karibo on the field. You've searched the Nabla to hand, but you can't summon it, because you've already used your normal summon for the turn, which Balancer Lord would normally provide. Well, if you had a Foolish Barrel in hand, and any one of these 1-card starters, you could Foolish Barrel the Balancer Lord, do all that stuff, and then banish the Balancer Lord with Cyber's Wicked, and then you still get that special summon of the Nabla from your hand. So it's just a bit of a way to cheat around that. And once again, if you've already got Balancer Lord out, and a Foolish Barrel is not a dead card, because you can simply bury the Dotscaper, or even a Sigma, and you have other plays. So these 2 cards are very powerful. Twin Twisters, back row. You'll notice I only run 1, and this may be an unpopular opinion. I only run 1 of the Billion Blade, and the reason why is because I almost never really it's about half and half, maybe 60-40. 60% being I actually use him to bring back used Mathmech cards in the graveyard, which you'll see in my Mathmech versus Orcus duel, where I use him to actually cheese back out the Super Factorial to my hand. So even if my opponent had gotten over everything, I still have a second Trishula effect waiting for him. It's pretty nice in that when you hard draw it, it's nice like that. You can also search it out. I searched it out in some very niche situations with Alimbertion, and actually used it with Alimbertion to overcome certain monsters. So he's good like that as well. And yes, it flows very well with Division to basically get over any monster. But I mostly use this card as recovery in case I'm wrong, with the Monster Reborn and I need to use that again. I've already used it. Well, I can simply search this, link into something, now it's in the graveyard, it triggers, gets me back the equation. And now I've Monster Reborn twice, without breaking at all. And that's why I like to run both of these at 1. So, 3 impermanents. Monster Effect Negation. Save this card as much as possible. Do not be baited into using this early. You want to try to use this during your turn, if you're going second, to bait out your opponent's negates early. Unless you know for sure that stopping an opponent's effect will stop their entire turn, I actually like to hold this and let them combo off entirely, and then begin by baiting out their traps, and later hand traps, because it almost guarantees my OTK at that point if I've held my card. Evenly matched. Same thing really, you just hold on to it. I will sacrifice trying to push for the OTK every time if I have this in hand, because banishing your opponent's board is just detrimental to their strategy. And then you proceed to go into the main phase 2 and do your powerful first turn combos and pretty much guarantee your positional setup and win at that point. Don't try to push the final Sigma win all the time. That's how people lose, because they overextend that way in this deck. Don't do that. 2 Super Factorials. A lot of people run 1, and they run the 1 Laplacian. I disagree with this. The ability to go into Laplacian more than once, and just to send non-targeting your opponent's board, is very broken. And you might think, well, you just explained to us that this is the recovery card, why not just use this with the Super Factorial? Because honestly, I love to hard draw this card, because that makes it much easier for me to combo off into other things, and I don't have to search the Super Factorial anymore. Now I can search the Mathmech equation straight to my hand to guarantee the OTK for the 3rd turn, if I'm going first. Same thing with the Nayata, the Billion Blade. So I actually like to hard draw this sometimes, and just being able to do it twice is just really broken. Okay, onward to the extra deck. Link Karibo, Link Devotee, Link Disciple, and Cyber's Wicked being your standard package for your first turn play. So every time I talked about the 1-card starters, that's what I talked about. Going into this, which will then give you the token, so that goes underneath it. You tribute this, get you 2 extra tokens, you go into this. This then, you still have 1 token on the board. You use that one token to go into Link Karibo under one of these link markers. You tribute the Cyber's Wicked's effect, banishing the Balance Lord to search your Mathmech tuner to hand, to which you then immediately special summon that tuner from hand using Balance Lord's effect. That's the standard play, right, with Balance Lord. And I've already talked to you guys about how to kind of force the Balance Lord play out. What I haven't talked to you guys about is how to do the first turn full combo play with the Super Factorial Search if you don't have Balance Lord. So if you use Balance Lord, it's easy. You special summon out at this point, you've banished the Balance Lord, you've searched the Nabla, you special summon the Nabla out, you tribute your Link Karibo to bring out any other level 4, it almost doesn't matter, but I try to go for a multiplication if I don't have one already, or maybe even the division. Stack it for Alimbertion, get the search for the Super Factorial, and you should at this point have hopefully three differently named Mathmechs in the graveyard, so you kind of guarantee that Laplacian send effect. Now, without Balance Lord, you don't have the special summon, and you don't have the normal summon, you can't do any of this, right? But if you have the ability to get around this with Dotscaper, with a Foolish Barrel, Gold Sarcophagus, and then a Subtraction or an Addion. So basically, if you can special summon and not normal summon at all, you can do all the one card combos. Sigma does the same thing. These two would work. These two would work if it was your opponent's turn first. These two. So we have multiple special summon options in the deck is kind of what I'm driving at. So if you can special summon out 2 monsters, you get the full combo anyway, and then you just normal summon the Nabla, and that's how you do get around it that way. Or, if you have a 1-card starter, but you have one of these 2 cards, you can Foolish Barrier the Balance Lord, go into full combo that way as well. So you can kind of dodge around not having your full combo with a 1-card starter and a Balance Lord engrave. So there's ways you can get around it. Don't feel like you can't get that Super Factorial full combo search. But the basic, if you've bricked really hard, which you almost won't with this deck build, you will still have a Cyber's Wicked and Link Karibo, and then you kind of just cross your fingers at that point. But let's get into the more fun of the deck. So you'll see in the Mathmech vs Orcus video, and I think I have a first turn combo videos up as well, that really IP Masquerano is one of the MVPs of the deck, because you're going to go into this card and you're going to utilize its effect to link summon into Avermax. Now you're almost always going to go into your Avermax because it's just so strong. Your opponent can't attack anything but it can't be targeted, and because of IP Masquerano, it can't even be destroyed by card effects. So you have a very highly immune card on the board, and the easy way to do that is a lot of people like to stack into Alimbertion, do the search for the Super Factorial, bring back a card, and then they have one more monster on board, perhaps with a Subtraction or an Addion. They like to sink into Magma. Big mistake. Don't do that. Go into this instead, and you'll have just these 2 monsters on board with this trap set. And now, you have the ability to use Laplacian's effect during your opponent's turn, and then you can link 4 after you get you want to do Laplacian's effect first because you get Cyber's Wicked Search again to get Nabla again during your opponent's turn, and now then you link 4 into your Avermax, and it's just really tough for your opponent to get around, especially after you've already shredded their hand and field with Laplacian. Most decks can't get over him at this point. Even if they do, now he shuffles an opponent's card from the field, non-targeting, back to the deck. So it pretty much guarantees you won't lose. Your first turn play may not be able to completely lock down your opponent with 4 negates, but it stops all of their plays anyway, and that's kind of what I'm driving at here. Now what's really strong about this, as well, is that you actually don't need Final Sigma at this point if he survives. If a non-targeting, non-destructible monster that beats any monster in battle once per battle, not even once per turn, if you manage to make this guy survive, during your next turn you just pump him up with multiplication and you hold that piece. You don't sacrifice him with division, you don't sacrifice him with Nabla, you hold what you have, and you use him and summon other things in the main monster zone, Allen versions, whatever you want really. Use your equip spell if you need it. Get double attacks through Nabla. Make this your new centerpiece. Make this your new Final Sigma. And you'll win the game that way. We talked about Laplacians, his effects, send a random card from his hand. Field for monster and field for spell trap, just very strong card. This deck wouldn't work without this card. You need this to search. Never push for the 4 card or even 3 card stack. It's just not worth it. You can get around hand traps if you get stopped with a 2 card stack, but if you commit that many resources into a single card, you will lose the duel. It's really that simple. Mathmech Magma. Almost never use him, but I think he's important. In certain conditions, especially in the side game, if my opponent has a very heavy negate board, but I manage to get over Dark Rule or no more, he can pop an opponent's basically entire field with 1 attack and then 2 pop. Is very strong. And those combo decks generally don't have much to do after that. And then when he dies, he still gets you a search of any Mathmech spell or trap, so that's very helpful. And then the big boy, Final Sigma. OTK card. Can't be affected by card effects, it's great. You will not go into this card unless you pretty much know you're going to win. If you decided to make a play where you sit on this card because you think that him being unaffected by card effects is broken or something, you will lose the duel. You only go into this card during your turn when you're pushing for game, and when you're almost certain that you're going to win, that he doesn't have something that's going to stop you or prevent him from losing. You push through hand traps at this point and you know he's probably got nothing else and now you're going to win. That's when you summon this card. If you do anything else, you will lose. Please don't make that mistake. Now you'll notice there's a couple of cards I haven't talked about. It's these 3 cards right here. Splash Mage, Transcode Talker, and our boy Accesscode Talker. This is where the 1-card combos will truly shine. Unfortunately, Splash Mage and Accesscode Talker are not out at this time. They will be out in the set after Ignition Assault. I think it's called Eternal Code. And when that comes out, this deck will be, in my opinion, mostly complete. Because without it, you can run things like Firewall Dragon, Dark Fluid, and you can kind of transcode up into that sometimes, but it's not that great. So there's some space right here for right now's format. But I'm going to explain this part because it's just really broken. So if you have a 1-card starter, let's say Clock Wyvern. Clock Wyvern summons himself, brings out a token. You go into Splash Mage because now you have 2 Cyberse monsters. You then target the Clock Wyvern, special summon it in defense position but negate its effects, right? You then link 3 into Transcode Talker. Transcode Talker brings any link 3 or lower link monster back to the field. You bring back the Splash Mage, and then you have link 3 and a link 2. You link 4 into Accesscode Talker, at which point you have Accesscode Talker, who targets this monster to gain 1000 attack per link marker. So he gains 3k, so he's at 5300. And you have a 2-pop, right? Because his effect is he's Dark Arm Dragon, but you have to banish a different attributed link monster from your graveyard every time. You have an Earth and a Water right here. So no matter what you have going on, you will always have a 5300 attack point monster with a 2-pop that cannot be negated. Your opponent cannot respond to this Dark Arm Dragon pop effect. That is broken. And any of the 4-card starters I told you about, Clock Wyvern, Cyberse, Gadget, Dotscaper, and Firewall Guardian, can do this. You'll almost never go into it that way either. At the point you go into this, generally it's turn 3, and you're trying to get over whatever response your opponent has for you. And so you'll have many more attributes. You'll have Dark attribute, you'll have Light attribute, and you'll have an extra Earth attribute in case you don't want to banish your transcode for whatever reason. And so you'll have a 3 or 4 pop, and what I like to abuse this with is I'll actually transcode back the IP Masquerena I used for Avermax, and then go into Accesscode. So now you'll have these 2 guys on board. You'll see it with the Orcust build, or the Orcust duel. Both of these guys couldn't be destroyed by battle, or destroyed by card effects in that duel, because of IP Masquerena abuse. So it's just really broken. Quickly going over the side deck here. 3 red reboots, an Imperial Order, 2 Cold by the Graves. That's just in case, there's a couple of tricky hand traps out there, and I'm going first for sure. Spell negation's pretty obvious in this format. Trap negations. Mech Knight Trap actually hurts me a little bit. With abuse with a Link Monster, it's very powerful if I can't get off my effects. Or things like Subterror, things like that. I only run 2, I already run 3 impermanents. If my opponent is probably going to Orcust to climax it anyway, so 2 is good and it doesn't break. Machines, nothing more to be said. Standard, stopping banish effects. Now I really like spell cancelers, because you can special summon out any of these guys and it only locks you into Cyberse for extra deck summons. But it doesn't lock you into regular summons. So if you special summon this guy out, you could tribute out the spell canceller, and now if your opponent has a spell heavy deck, it just Jinzos everything. And it is a counter for Mystic Mine, which is kind of cool, even though Mystic Mine is seeing less play now. And that's it, guys. I mean, if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments. This is the LT signing off.